exactly what he's going to have to do to bring forth the creation, the universe, and the earth, and life, and microscopic life, microscopic elements, even beyond microscopic. You go on down to elementary particles which can't be seen. There's evidence of them, and science knows there's evidence of them, and they think they're there. They're building blocks for atoms, so they have to be there in order to create atoms, and they found over 200 of them so far. Now, you got 200 elementary particles. Each has a characteristic of its own, and each has a different job. And they all produce the hydrogen atoms. They're in families, so they all work together. And if you go back to the Big Bang Theory, these elementary particles don't fit into the Big Bang. If you go into the quantum theory, they say that these particles evolved from strings in the string theory, and these little strings vibrated and generated these particles. Well, you know, that's real far into imagination, but that's all right. Nothing wrong with imagination, because that's what you need for anything that you're going to find out about. You got to think about it first. And that's a possibility. It could have been that way. But God created the strings, if that's the case. Somehow he created these elementary particles, over 200 of them, and they had to be created because each one has a different job to do. Some of them are forces, and some of them are supposed to be like solid elements, you know. Maybe not solid. They say there's no such thing as anything solid. It's just forces. So it could be. I mean, we don't know. That's way over our heads. But we know that there had to be a God to create these elements, because these elements had to create, elementary particles had to create solid elements, and the solid elements all have a different job. There's 92 of those, and each one has its own characteristics and its own properties. So the elementary particles had to be designed to create those elements just like they are. If not, we wouldn't have no universe. So that had to be understood in order to create the elementary particles. And before the elementary particles, a structure had to be created to bring forth the elementary particles. The structure throughout the universe, because God exists throughout the universe. Anywhere you go in the universe, you got all the laws of physics and chemistry and math and everything, and that's exactly what God is. He's all the laws that make up the truth. Anything can be proved as the truth, and the truth is God. So then once solid particles were figured out, then he had to figure out how the universe had to be laid out, and how gravity could form the universe from all these elements. And then after that, he had to figure out how the earth had to be formed to where the seed would end up in the earth. The seed of every living thing was in seawater. Anything that moves is what Genesis says. Genesis 1:20 and 1:21. It said the waters brought forth. It said, let the waters bring forth the living creature that has life. So it's God's creation, and it all came from his laws, but the waters brought it forth. And seawater is a mixture of all the 92 chemical elements. A lot of people, I didn't know that at one time. I figured water was water, but I knew there's a difference between seawater and fresh water, because seawater will drive you crazy if you drink it, but fresh water won't. It's good for you. So it's the seawater that is being spoken of in the Bible, and the seawater is the same as planetary nebula. If you took seawater out into space and turned it loose, it would make a big cloud of nebula like I got behind me. This is the Orion Nebula, right outside my window. Yeah, I got a